As both the Gerudo chieftain and one of the 4 chosen champions of Hyrule, Urbosa is one of the most powerful and influential figures in all the land. In Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, Urbosa has an approachable playstyle that is supercharged through the addition of her lightning-empowered moves. Let's dive in and find out everything that she can do. Urbosa's regular attack string consists of 7 attacks. She will slash to the left, spin and slash to the right, do a shield bash, spin and make a fast cut, do a flipping kick into the air, thrust forward, and then finish with a large jumping slash. Whenever Urbosa damages an enemy, she will start to accumulate charge in her Thunder gauge, and this gauge gets bigger through her post-game upgrade. If Urbosa has any amount of charge, this regular attack string and her later attacks will be enhanced, as she adds in lightning shocks to several of her cuts. I'll get into some finer details of this charge gauge later, but for now let's move on to her other basic moves. For her regular dash attack, Urbosa will come to a stop with a flurry of blows, from which you can then continue into her regular attack string if you want to. For her strong dashing attack, Urbosa performs a thrust, and then goes right back into running. For her regular aerial attacks, Urbosa uses her shield like a boomerang and launches 3 attacks that hit in a good area. Her strong aerial finisher has her then come slamming quickly back down to the ground. Last up, let's cover her Sheikah Slate runes. Starting with her Stasis rune, Urbosa will time lock enemies in front of her before going into a canned spinning attack. Thankfully, Urbosa is able to dodge cancel out of this animation, and it's almost always better for her to do this rather than letting it complete as is. Next up for her Cryonis rune, Urbosa brings up an ice block just in front of her, and though you can just leave it at that, she is also able to do a follow-up attack by pressing X, which has her zap and explode the block to hurt enemies around it. For her Magnesis rune, Urbosa gathers metal objects in front of her for a second before zapping them with electricity shortly after. Like other Magnesis runes, this one will not start your cooldown if there's nothing for her to grab, and instead the rune just fails. Last up, for her Remote Bomb rune, Urbosa will throw a bomb forward and jump on it, using the blast to knock herself into the air. From this position, she can then add in any aerial attack she wants. However, being in the air is not always what you want to do after hitting an enemy with a bomb, which can often reveal their weak points. And all in all, this is probably one of the weaker Remote Bomb runes out there. Before moving on, I do have to fit in that, like Link with his one-handed weapons and her descendant Riju, Urbosa is one of the few characters that is able to deflect beam attacks with her shield. However, this can also just work on other enemy attacks, revealing enemy weak points. Well, with all of her basic abilities out of the way, let's jump over to her strong attacks next. For her first strong attack, Urbosa does a simple stab in front of herself, and this, like her later strong attacks, can be further enhanced by continuing to tap the strong attack button as long as she has some amount of charge. This will allow her to do a blast of lightning in addition to her normal thrust attack. If I slow this down, you can see the easy to notice sparks that appear around her after this extended attack. And this is actually the moment where you're meant to press her unique action button in order to get an instant recharge. Normally, Urbosa's unique action simply allows for her to stand in place and charge her bar for free. But by pressing this with proper timing during her strong attacks, it actually allows her to get a quick charge back. On top of this, you can just hold it to continue to charge like normal afterwards. I find the timing on this to be extremely generous, but just in case you can't really hit it that well, you really don't have much to worry about. Given how much Urbosa charges up from just hitting enemies normally, not being able to get this quick charge consistently at first doesn't really affect her playstyle all that much. For her second strong attack, Urbosa will unleash a series of attacks before doing a final lightning blast. If extended, she will continue to slash and cause lightning blasts, dealing a tremendous amount of damage to any of the unfortunate enemies that are caught within its relatively short range. Next up, for her third strong attack, she will throw out lightning in 2 lines around her before launching into a series of dancing cuts forward. And if extended, Urbosa will continue moving forward in this way, cutting and blasting those that she goes through. This move makes a great complement to the previous one, as it allows her to have a bit of moving damage. However, you do need to keep in mind that she will pretty much stop moving if she runs into any of the tougher named enemies. Urbosa's 4th strong attack will have her charge up her blade before unleashing a distant Thunder Slash, and if extended, she will assume a stance before releasing a long blast of lightning that can be pivoted around freely. This blast will cause heavy, consistent damage to anyone that is caught within it. Again, this is more fantastic extended damage for Urbosa, but one that you also need to be wary of enemies around you while you're channeling. Moving on to her 5th strong attack, Urbosa will perform a series of cuts before blasting the enemies that are just a couple feet in front of her. If extended, she will continue to channel the swirling lightning, juggling and heavily damaging enemies that are caught within it. On top of just being another devastatingly powerful extended combo, this move can also be used to target natural enemy weak points, such as the stone on the backs of the various taluses. For her 6th and final strong attack, Urbosa zips back and forth with very fast movement. If extended, she begins an extremely large lightning storm that will hit a pretty large square in front of her. And this extended attack has the additional property of forcing out your enemy's weak point gauges. Depending on how much charge you have before you launch into this, you can do this lightning storm for a very long amount of time, which just on its own can often be enough to completely drain down enemy weak points. However, you do still have the option to cancel out of it and transition to using stasis on your enemies and then attacking them like normal from there. All in all, this final combo is really incredible, and it's quite the topper to what is already a wonderfully diverse and very powerful moveset. With all of her attacks out of the way, all we have left to do is to take a look at her weapon and weapon seal builds. Let's move on to that now. Urbosa has 3 possible weapons, and going from weakest to strongest, they are her Gyarados Scimitar, Moonlight Scimitar, and Scimitar of the 7. I'll put a chart up on screen right now to show the hidden level 25 and 30 seals, but for my weapon build today, I'm going to be focusing on her Scimitar of the 7. This weapon already comes with a star-shaped seal and a square-shaped seal, and in order to get the best damage bonus of plus 20, you're going to want to add in 3 more of one of those shapes and just 1 more of the other. While you could focus on more strong attack damage, in actual practice, being able to reach her moves faster, especially her final extended strong attack, is just a lot more valuable than getting a little bit of extra damage on her attacks. For this reason, I highly recommend 3 attack speed seals and just 1 more of the star-shaped strong attack damage seals. Of course, there is just the option of going full attack speed seals, which is so common in general with these weapon builds because it is so powerful for the majority of the characters. Even though you go down to only a plus 15 damage buff by going this route, it's really not that much of a downgrade. And just like that, we have reached the end of Urbosa. Let's put everything she can do together and see where she ends up. All in all, Urbosa's playstyle in Age of Calamity fits very well with her actual character. In battle, she is both a fierce and legendary warrior, while still being very reliable to those who haven't yet found their full potential. Urbosa's fighting style is a bit like Link with his one-handed swords. By this I mean that she is equally devastating for both new players to pick up and use, as well as old players who are continuing to master more and more of her intricacies. At the end of the day, Urbosa truly is worthy of all of the titles that she holds, and in just about every way, defines what the word champion even means. So, what are your thoughts on Urbosa? Personally, she was one of my immediate favorites when I started playing through the game, and has continued to be one of the more fun options for me. I just always have a good time whenever I'm going with her for a level. There are even some additional mechanics that I didn't really go into in this video, such as the additional lightning damage that she gets onto enemies that are standing in water. However, if there's anything big that I might have missed, please let me know down in the comments below. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. I'd like to give a special thank you to my top patrons Henry Gutierrez, Ignis Isel, and Menet Rice, as well as to all my other supporters over on Patreon. Thank you all very much.